So I always open up each speech with they say great speakers start out with a joke, so here goes. There's a guy named Sid. He's in his 40s, and every day he prays to win the lottery. And he sounds like this: God, let me win, let me win, let me win the lottery. In his 40s, his 50s, his 60s, he prays. In his 70s and 80s, he goes to church, lights candles, and he doesn't win the lottery. On his deathbed, he's at the hospital, musters up the strength to pray and says, God, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Why won't you let me win the lottery? And the clouds open up, and he hears this bellowing voice, and a light shines on Sid, and Sid hears, Sid, it's God. God, what did I do wrong? Why? And God says, Sid, meet me halfway, buy a ticket. So that's what I talk about in Heroes, Metas, and Friends. Sid had the faith, but he didn't have the tools to activate his faith. And that's what I came up upon when I began thinking about sharing my story in this book. You know, I had the greatest blessing. Some of you may have heard this, but I have the greatest blessing when I was 50. The greatest blessing in my life, I was fired from my job in broadcasting at CBS in Boston. And at the time, it didn't seem like a blessing. And I began to hear two voices. At 50, wow, I'm out of a job. I had some money in the bank, I had some severance, but I heard two voices. The first voice was, you better not touch that 401k. You better not touch that savings. You better get a job. You better get out your resume. You're not one of these lucky people that can take time off. You're not one of these people that can write a book. I didn't like that voice. That was not the most comfortable voice. But as time went on, I heard another voice. And the other voice, I call in the book, the inside me. And that voice said, you know, you've been working for 33 years straight. You've been working 12, 15 hours a day. You've sacrificed a lot. What about taking a little bit of time to think about this journey you're on? You know, it takes 9 months to make a life. You could take a month or 2 weeks or whatever. And as I started to cultivate that voice, that inside me, some magical, you can call them coincidences, but synchronistic things started to happen. I started to discover that I could tell a story about some of my ups and downs in my life and connect them to spirituality, connect them to God. What about my friends that were unemployed, the broadcasting industry? All these things started to come to me as I listened to what I call the inside me. I make the decision to write the book. I knew I'd have to have some income coming in on the side. I decide to go to the Guitar Center in Boston to buy a microphone. And that day, 5 different things started to go into sequence. I buy the microphone, I come back into my car, turn on a radio station about spirituality called HeyHouseRadio.com. There's a DJ on the air talking about his book. One coincidence. The next coincidence, the station in St. Louis that I interviewed with called, and they said, we're going to go with someone else. Right after I got rejected from the station, my daughter calls, says, Daddy, will you take me out to lunch today? That couldn't have happened if I was in St. Louis. The third coincidence, I got an email from a friend of mine that ran Sirius XM 70s on 7 and said, would you like to audition for 70s on 7? I'm not making this up. I just bought a microphone. This is great. And the coincidences started to occur in my life that no longer were coincidences. They were a part of a plan that at the time I didn't know, but I activated myself. So I made the commitment to write the book. More ideas started coming to me. And I took a trip to Sedona, Arizona, which is known for its spirituality, its beautiful red rock mountains. Beautiful, beautiful place. I went by myself. I just said, I'm going to do this. I hired a guide out there to take me on these tours of the mountains. And he said, what are you doing here? What's going on? You're here by yourself? I said, well, I'm writing a book on spirituality. He says, really? You're talking my language about positive thinking? Oh, yeah. We're talking and we're walking up and down the mountain. And he says, how do you practice your spirituality? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, do you pray? Oh, yeah. He says, how do you meditate? I go, yeah. He says, do you do the cross thing? I said, what do you mean? He says, well, you know, if you look at the cross, our earth journey is the horizontal beam in the cross. Our spiritual journey is the up and down beam. And how do we reconcile our earth journey, or in our spiritual journey? And I said, okay, we talked more. I get back on the plane coming home and I said, wait a minute. What is our earth journey? And what is our spiritual journey? And what words can we assign to our earth journey? Work, making money, nice things, us and them, competition, envy, jealousy, regret, paying bills, I want that house, lack. That's some of our earth journey. Now, how do we assign the words to our spiritual journey? What are those words? Love, compassion, forgiveness, giving, gratitude, acceptance, enthusiasm. So when I figured this out, that we have two separate journeys in our life, and we live and attach to the spiritual list of words, what had happened to me was my earth journey began to fall together automatically. The list of words on that spiritual journey, they're not just words, they're a code. They're a code that was handed down to us by Jesus, whoever you want to call God, Lao Tzu, Buddha, Moses. They're a code that was given to us thousands of years ago. That if we live our life and filter our days through that list, through that code of words, our earth journey will begin to reveal itself on the way it's supposed to be. The inside me that I discovered was and is our soul. That energy that is here before we're born, that lives with us the day we're born, lives with us now, and then continues to live eternally. It is an energy. It is the version of us that is God. That is our higher self. When we can connect to that higher self and who we are, that's when our earth journey begins to come together. And I experienced that during the journey of this book. I want to share two stories with you. There were these twins that were born, infant twins that were born. One was failing, and the nurse put them in two separate incubators. She decided, as one of the babies started to fail, to take the infants and put them together in one incubator. One of the twin sisters put her arm around the other. Have you guys heard this story before? The ailing twin began to heal. Is that a coincidence? What is that? Today, those twins are 18 years old. And the mother was so inspired. They're actually from this area. The mother was so inspired, she became a nurse. And that was posted on a radio station website on WSRS. It got 10,000 likes, and it went viral to over 1 million views of these twins, these infant twins. When we tap into our higher self through listening through the voice of our inside me, we can discover what truly is our soul's agenda and what we're supposed to do in our life. and you're saying, you know, John, I have a job, I can't quit my job, I don't have enough money in the bank. You can find an hour a day or an hour a weekend to begin to ask the questions that I asked of myself, and I asked of my higher self, which is a version of God. What am I supposed to do? Please assign me my role. And I promise you, those answers will come. They're right there in us. We just got to knock inside and bring it out. My version of that, many of the stories I've been sharing, my cousin Fred, after I launched my book, grabbed it and went on a flight and read it on a flight out west. He read the whole book, put the book down, looked out the window, and the artwork on the cover of my book was the view out his window. And he emailed me this saying, is this a coincidence? Maybe not. Good luck. I took the picture and I turned it into a Facebook ad. Within the first month, I had 5,000 likes. Friday, we hit 30,000 likes. You know, and is that a coincidence? When we really discovered that inside voice of who we truly are, our earth journey comes together and begins to show itself automatically. Since I started on this path, I can honestly say with all my heart, since I launched the book in 2012 in September, I haven't had a bad day. I haven't had a bad day. Now, maybe I've had a flat tire or stubbed my toe, but when we live our soul's agenda and discover that path that we're supposed to live, we start to see our days as blessings, as every day is a blessing. When we live from our heart, our mind may try to get in the way. I haven't figured out why yet. Some call it the ego. Our mind may try to talk us out of what our heart is saying. But when we live from a place of gratitude, gratitude isn't a word, it is an energy that resets us and centers us from our heart. And when we live from our heart, we start to see that this thing we call life is truly a blessing. And we start to see that every day and everything that comes to us is part of this divine matrix called life, called love, and called God. Thank you so much, everybody.
I really loved it. I like that vertical and the horizontal thing, that when we line up and really like dedicate time to, let's say, God, messages come to you or doors open. I really like that message.
Spirituality of advising all of us to take 30 minutes to an hour every day, shut the TV off, shut the cell phones off. And also that don't let your mind get ahead of you, because then you have fear. So I truly believe in that.
I think the most significant thing was the analogy to the cross about your earthly journey and your spiritual journey. That's not something that I've heard before, that we've talked about before, so that was pretty cool.
I exercise understanding what those coincidences are in life, understanding what my earth journey is, and just knowing John as a friend is inspiration for me. He's that good of a human being.